We're gonna have a good time. Listen up, check us out. Use the hotline number to chime. Come on and join us. There's lots of surprise for you. Fun and family, with great fellowship too.
Crystal and Sean have exciting words. I'm sure there's something that you've never heard. Sunday at 6, it's an excellent mix. We've got spiritual flair, special guests will be there.
Come on and join us. We're here and waiting for you. Connect with us at 6 o'clock. We want to share in all you do. Come on and join us. Come right here and find. Connect with us and share your thoughts. We want to explore your mind. Chattitudes, Chattitudes.
What's your attitude?
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 Come on and join us. We're gonna have a good time. Listen up, check us out. Use the hotline number to chime. Come on and join us. There's lots of surprise for you. Fun and family, with great fellowship too.
Crystal and Sean have exciting words. I'm sure there's something that you've never heard. Sunday at 6, it's an excellent mix. We've got spiritual flair, special guests will be there.
Come on and join us. We're here and waiting for you. Connect with us at 6 o'clock. We want to share in all you do. Come on and join us. Come right here and find. Connect with us and share your thoughts. We want to explore your mind. Chattitudes, Chattitudes.
What's your attitude?
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 Come on and join us. We're gonna have a good time. Listen up, check us out. Use the hotline number to chime. Come on and join us. There's lots of surprise for you. Fun and family, with great fellowship too.
Crystal and Sean have exciting words. I'm sure there's something that you've never heard. Sunday at 6, it's an excellent mix. We've got spiritual flair, special guests will be there.
Come on and join us. We're here and waiting for you. Connect with us at 6 o'clock. We want to share in all you do. Come on and join us. Come right here and find. Connect with us and share your thoughts. We want to explore your mind. Chattitudes, Chattitudes.
What's your attitude?
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 Come on and join us. We're gonna have a good time. Listen up, check us out. Use the hotline number to chime. Come on and join us. There's lots of surprise for you. Fun and family, with great fellowship too.
Crystal and Sean have exciting words. I'm sure there's something that you've never heard. Sunday at 6, it's an excellent mix. We've got spiritual flair, special guests will be there.
Come on and join us. We're here and waiting for you. Connect with us at 6 o'clock. We want to share in all you do. Come on and join us. Come right here and find. Connect with us and share your thoughts. We want to explore your mind. Chattitudes, Chattitudes.
What's your attitude?
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 Hey,
Hello.
hey, welcome to
Welcome back to
Chattitudes.
Chattitudes, yes.
What's your attitude? We are so excited today.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have an all-important topic. We're doing a 3-part series on after the protest. So after the protest, what do we do in our community? This is
Yes.
very, very important to us.
Yes, it
So last week we talked about economics, how we got to band together for the black community. We had financial experts on here. They told us everything about what we we need to do to better prepare ourselves, to better prepare our community, and how we have to keep our finances in the Black community. It starts with being economically stable. And so last week we talked about that. If you missed that show, I'm here to tell you, you need to go back and watch it, because we had experts on there, and they told us how to diversify our portfolios and what we need to do. And you can make appointments with them. Shelby is one of our sponsors. We'll talk about her a little later. But you have to. I'm just telling you, people, we got to get out there and we got to build economically. And so this is about after the protest. So today we're talking about Black Lives Matter. We got somebody who's been on the front line. We got an advocate here. She's very smart with her MBA degree. She's my cousin. I'm excited. Jenifer Moore is here today. She's an educator, a leader, a diversified trainer. So we're going to ask them, what does all of this mean? What should we be doing? How can we help our community? And so that's what we're here about. We're going to talk about that today. And so we're just so glad that you have joined us. If this is your first time, we welcome you. Welcome you. We're so excited. And I get everybody knows that I get real pumped up real early in the show. So a lot of times I got to calm myself down because I get really excited about what we're talking about and very passionate about what we're talking about. So Sean keeps me in line because she gets all of those things that we have to do in order first. So Sean, I'm gonna send it over to you, Sean. I'm gonna calm down for a second.
That's okay, Krista. Bless your heart.
Calm down.
Again, thank you so much. We want to especially thank our friends and partners, our friends and family partners, and we also want to thank all of our sponsors. And again, if this is your first time, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, if you're tuning in, make sure you text or call your family members to make sure they tune in, because this is an important topic for our community. To learn more about Chattitudes, you can find us on social media. You will find us on Instagram, Chattitudes 2020, and on Facebook, Chattitudes. Also, you can visit our website, chattitudes.org.
Chattitudes.
And if you want to also support us in what we're doing with our community, you can always send a donation, any amount, to our Cash App at $Chattitudes. We thank you.
Yes, and we're so excited. And so today we're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And so I was doing some research, and it's a big thing going on right now. It's a big trend. Should we defund the police? Like, I mean, honestly, until I started doing my research, I don't even know what this means. Why should we defund the police? Because I need police protection, and I'm thinking if they defund the police and the police get abolished, then I'm just going to hire my own personal security guard. That's just me. You know what I mean? But as I begin to really start researching what this defund mean and just really reallocating resources to our community, I don't know that I'm not too on board with this thing. So this is what we're going to talk about today.
Right. And you say that, and I actually, have a little difference in opinion. Defund, like you said, what does that mean? It just means different, different allocation of funds or whatever. Just not putting so much funds, in the law enforcement, which I'm actually, I'm on board with that.
Right.
More funds, I believe, should be put towards the communities, the public school system, educating, also Boys and Girl Clubs, anything to upbuild and lift up our youth. To help them, I mean, the police, I think they have enough funds. They got enough.
Okay. And then I started looking at the history of this thing. Law enforcement, it says, started really in the South. It started as really slave control.
Yeah, and KKK.
Right.
Ahead
Very
of the
interesting. Very interesting. And then it went on to the Jim Crow laws, and they were trying to enforce all of these minor violations under the Jim Crow laws. And so then law enforcement became even more hostile to us during the Jim Crow era. Absolutely. And so now, does that continue to exist? Because, and this is why I'm glad we got our diversity trainer here today, because how can we really change the mindset? Because this has been ingrained for years now. So can we change the mindset?
It's a hard issue.
It's a hard issue. And
it's a hard issue.
Yeah, so I mean, those are the things we're going to talk about today. This is some serious stuff. Some serious stuff. But before we go any further, we always do our word of the week.
Yeah.
We do our word of the week. And so we're going to do our word of the week.
What is that?
Right. So our word of the week every week comes from the Urban Dictionary. We don't know why, just because we like it. I mean, it's the Urban Dictionary. So this is very interesting. I've been saying this all over the place, and I'm telling you, I'm just not that hip. You know what I mean? But I've been saying this. I don't know what this means. So our word of the week this week is 12.
You know what? I don't know what 12 is.
You don't know what that is either, right?
I don't know. And I saw it. I was like,
What's
I'm
12?
too scared to ask.
I'm trying to count the president. I mean, like, it can't be the president, right? I mean, it's like, what is 12?
Right, what is
12?
So y'all gonna tell us what it is.
They know what it is
okay.
over there.
Y'all
I'm going
know
to tell them
what
what the Urban Dictionary said.
Okay.
So 12 actually means police.
Oh,
I did not know that, right? So 12 means the police or a member of law enforcement. I think it derived from most drug smugglers, actually. They used to use this to warn their clients or peddlers. They used to use this that police officers are approaching. So they would say 12, 12. So that meant that the police was I did not know. I'm telling you, I'm saying 12 all over the place.
I saw it.
I'm so confused. I saw F12. I was like, what's F12? I don't know what that means.
On the computer, F12.
F12. Like, I think it's F12. I'm telling you, until my daughter died and she gives me these words of the week from the Urban Dictionary, and she said, Mom, 12. It means police. I said, that's what it
I'm
means.
glad. Yeah, that's a good one because I didn't know.
So we
Thank
didn't
you,
know.
Diamond.
So,
Yeah.
Look at that. We learned something today. All right, we're going to talk about our sponsors just very quickly. We don't need any music for this. We're going to just talk about our sponsors very quickly, but we do want to bring it up on the screen because our sponsors are very important to us, and we have some wonderful black businesses. We got Gold Crown Cosmetics. I'm telling you, Antoinette Douglas, I know her personally. She has body butter, battle oil, all natural products. She basically started this company because she said there wasn't enough skin products for the black community. She's a young entrepreneur. I'm telling you, go to her website. It's goldcrowncosmetics.com. Please support Antoinette. We love her.
And next we have Nicole Company.
I have that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
Oh, you can't see it.
Y'all
They can't see me. They can't see me. Okay.
This is a lip gloss line that is committed to exhibiting beauty in various ways. This is actually by Quincy. So congratulations, Quincy. We are actually wearing this today, and it feels lovely. Thank you.
It feels lovely. Oh, and then we got Tanika Total Look. I mean, achieve your total look with Tanika's Total Look. Hey, she's serving the DMV. Call her. I'm telling you, she will hook you up. Tell her that Chattitudes sent you. She giving out a discount, I think. Anyway, she is today. 674-6022. If you want natural hair, long hair, short hair, middle grain hair, doesn't matter. She got you.
And next we have Fonville and Associates Financial Services by Shelby Fonville, who is the president. She is actually servicing the community in terms of annuities, insurance, and financial services. So reach out to her on Facebook, Fonville and Associates Financial Services, or 240-346-7430.
All right. Thank you to our sponsors.
Yes,
thank you to
everybody.
our sponsors.
Yes.
We can go back now. Thank you so much. Our sponsors are wonderful. We have family and friends sponsors, and they sponsor us every month. This is how we make this ministry possible.
Yes.
And so we're not going to really delay you too much any further, because what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to our commercial break. In the next 2 minutes, we're going to bring up our lovely, lovely guests. We want you to chime in. We want you to tune in. We want you to chat with us, because this is a friend and family discussion. Let me just put a disclaimer out there.
Oh, yeah.
These are just our opinions. It does not make us right. This is our disclaimer. The views and opinions that you will hear today, it's just our opinion.
Right, just our opinion.
Okay? All right, so it's just our opinion. But we want you to chime in, because we see so many episodes on this, so many things, and people don't have a chance to really voice their opinion. So this is for our family and friends, because remember, we always say this platform is for you and for us to get better as a people. And so we want you to just make sure you chat with us.
Right.
And when the panelists come up, ask them questions.
Right. And so in case you can't get through the chat on YouTube, actually call into our hotline. The hotline number here is 240-719-2560 if you want to call in.
Right. And another thing, people say that sometimes they can't chat. I will tell you, I think you have to log into Google.
Yeah,
you got to be on your Google.
in,
you got to log into Google to be able to chat with us. Some people are watching it on their TV, some people on the computer, so they're watching it all over. But if you're on your computer or phone and you want to be able to chat, I think you have to actually log into Google, and then you can chat with us. All right. We're going to run our commercial real quick. In the next 2 minutes, we will have our two lovely guests. They are so pretty. They are waiting for us in the studio. We're excited to have them today. All right, so come back with us. Don't go anywhere. Let's start thinking about social justice reform. Start thinking about, should we defund the police? Start thinking about, what are we doing after this protest? Let's get it together, guys. All right, we're going to come back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, guys.
Hey, Chuck! been right down that road with you. Yeah, I had some so-called friends. Yes. When trouble came, they went the other way. Tell me about it. But one thing I'm glad about, that ain't a friend like the lonely Jesus. No. Well. No.
Lovely panelists. Look at our lovely panelists. Aren't they beautiful? They are beautiful.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. Welcome to Chattitudes.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you both.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're excited to have.
Yeah.
We're always excited to have young people
Absolutely.
and get your viewpoints on things. All right. So first we have to my left. She is actually my cousin, guys. We kind of look alike. I'm looking at us. We look alike.
Yeah.
All right. Her name is Chardae Barron. She's 24 years old, so she's in our millennial population. So I love the millennials because they are passionate about what they believe in. So I'm going to tell you something about her just quickly. She is a smart cookie. She is an MBA graduate. She graduated from the University of Maryland. She is a business analyst. She is actually... she is an advocate. She's been on the front line. And the reason that I told her, because she's very vocal about this thing. She's been down there. She's been protesting. She's been researching. She's been doing all types. She's been contacting our Congress members because she knows that we need a change. And so that's the reason she's here today. And I'm proud. I'm proud of her. And I'm just proud that she's my cousin. And so, and another thing that she does, this is just off the record, she's a great cheerleading coach. She is a tough cheerleading coach. And if any of your cheerleaders are watching, they probably agree. She's a tough cheerleading coach, but she's been cheering forever. But we love her, and welcome. She's an entrepreneur, too. So we'll get her to advertise her business as well. But that's Chardae. All right, Sean.
Okay. To my left is Miss Jenifer. And let me just point out real quick. I know she's probably Celia's daughter, beautiful daughter. They look like twins. But Jenifer is one of 6 women with the Wells Collective. It's an education, diversity, and inclusion consulting company. And also, she is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Key School in Annapolis, Maryland. Jenifer has served children of Washington, D.C. since 2003 as a teacher, tutor, and school leader. She earned a master's degree from Trinity in D.C. and in educational administration, a bachelor's degree from Howard University.
HU?
Yay! What is that? HU? Am I saying it right?
You can't say it right. You can't say it right.
It's a basic thing. It's a basic thing.
I don't know. Jenifer is a D.C. native who has a love for learning, a deep connection to the community, and a hunger to disrupt inequity in education. She is a wife and a mom of 1 daughter and 2 sons, and she believes that if education is to be the great equalizer, it must be rooted in equity and inclusion. So welcome, Jenifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, we're excited. You don't want to say anything first, or you want us to just jump right into this panel discussion because we're ready to just dive in. We ready to dive in? We ready to dive in. Let's dive in. All right, guys. So first of all, for those who don't understand, what is social justice? And I know, Jenifer, that you work on. You work for the Well Collective. Well Collective. And so you. So tell us, what's social justice? What are we fighting for
So
here?
I think, a lot of people confuse this idea of diversity and like what's the difference between diversity and inclusion and then justice.
Okay.
And so when you think about diversity, it's a mixture of things. But diversity isn't the answer. Like if you think about United States, it's been diverse. There have been black people and white people and brown people, but that doesn't mean that things are equitable. And so when I think about equity and justice, I really think about the actions that level the playing field, that remove the barriers. So justice is that work that actively removes barriers so that people are not equal but equitable.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's a good.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
that was
excellent,
deep.
right.
That was
That
deep.
was-
You all get that, audience? Understand the difference between those things.
Yeah.
That's very
Because
deep.
you're not giving everybody the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
Equal means that I'm going to give you the same thing, but you have different needs from Chardae. So equity means that I'm going to give you exactly what you need for success. And so,
Got you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sade, why is it important for you to go down there and be on the front line? What makes this protest so important to you?
Well, first I wasn't going to go. I was like, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I don't need to be out there in a crowd. But then I just woke up one day and I felt it in my spirit. Like, if my ancestors could be in the field picking cotton, I can go stand in the heat in a pandemic and protest and use my voice. And I feel like it's really important for people my age to be on the front line, and for people like the kids that I coach to see me out there speaking and fighting for what's right. All right, I think this is just like a right is right type of thing, and I feel like everyone in the world finally took time to stop and look, and I want to be able to tell my kids, like, I was a part of that. So I felt that it was super important for me to get out there.
Yeah.
And that's who's pretty much leading the charge, are the millennials.
Right.
And then the other thing too we're noticing is that the protest looks a little bit more diverse than it did back in the 60s. So you have more white folks out there with us, marching side by side, and sometimes even leading. I mean, I've seen some videos
the
of
police.
they in front, right?
Right.
That's what they
That's
should
awesome.
be.
Yeah, there
Right.
you go.
And both of you all have been down there. So tell me what the feel was down there. And I know that, it sort of got overshadowed by a lot of the looting and the rioting and the break. But tell me, from both of you guys, what did it feel like to just be there? Like, what did that feel like to you guys?
Yeah. I, similar to Chardae, I was first not going because I was worried about my children and like, how do I take them down there and they keep their mask on? But I knew that I had a responsibility. And I always think about my ancestors and all of these people's shoulders who I'm standing on. So I took my children. We went last Saturday, and it was the most beautiful protest that I've ever been to, because everyone was taking care of each other. So whatever you needed, people had it. They had water, they had hand sanitizer, they had snacks for the
had
children, they had masks for you. And then there was so many different groups of people saying and fighting and marching for Black Lives Matter, and I had never seen anything like that on a large scale. And then white people were doing what, in my opinion, they should be doing, because their ancestors created this mess, is that they were on the front lines.
Yep.
And I feel like that is their role.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think, and Chardae, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll ask, do you think that a lot of the rioting and the looting, that sort of take away from that? Or do you think that the media is giving an image of all of the looting, but then you miss that part? We don't see where they're handing out the water and the mask and everyone being taken care of. So tell me your experience down there. Did you have the similar experience?
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Like the very first day I went, I was protesting the week that George Floyd died, like 2 days later. So when I was protesting, we were up like directly in front of the White House. This is before they put all the barricades. And, you know, every day they pushed it back and further back. They added a gate. So this is in the beginning. And, like, I was, like, moved to tears, like you said. Like, it was the first time that I've seen that many people that look different be in the same place at the same time fighting for the same thing. So I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like a sense of pride. But I know, like, deep down inside, like, this is just the beginning. Like, it doesn't stop. But I felt glad that our voices were heard. And then as far as the looting goes, I went protesting 4 days. Like, I actually witnessed some looting, but I was live a lot, and I wanted to, like you said, the moments of chaos at the protest lasted maybe like 2 minutes max.
Oh, wow.
Like it blew up, and then it was like back to peace. Like the people that were running the protest, they would like calm the crowd down. And then a lot of the looting and rioting was also from like agitators and not protesters. So like my issue is like the media calling protesters looters. No, protesters are protesters and looters are looters. But we didn't see like the care packages that they were giving out. Like none of that was on the news. They were like everyone out there. It was like a big family, and it was the first time that I felt like for once in my 24 years that like we are headed in the right direction.
Like unity.
Yeah.
Like
That's so
sense
good.
of unity. Yeah.
So one of the questions, at this point, do you all think that you've made a difference? And kind of, and this is, and where do we go from here? Well, I mean, do you think that you've made a difference? Because I feel like, and as the Black community, sometimes we're vocal people. We're very, very vocal. We use our voice a lot. You know, where other people may actually use the power of the pen, the power of the computer, the power to, you know, send these letters, send emails. But we are vocal people. And so, yes, we're out there. We're on the front lines. We're screaming. We're shouting. We want justice. You know, free our people. Enough is enough. Free. We say all of these things. But do you think, this is from the chat line, do you think you've made a difference? And do you feel like progress is being made? Reverend Sinclair said that.
I'll say yes and no. Like I said, I think the real work starts now.
Right.
I've seen so much. It's like the world started going up in flames and people started making changes fast. It's like you can hear us now. And I think that we are starting to see things change slowly. We're starting to see laws change, or like the chokehold being banned in New York. You're starting to see things happen slowly. But I don't want our people to think that this is enough. And I don't want them to think that when the officers get convicted, that it's over, because it's not.
Right. Because laws need to be changed.
Yeah.
Right.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that this is only the beginning, and I always like to look back in history, and if we see what happened after the riots, after Dr. King was assassinated, and people protested, and they burned down things, and then eventually we saw like laws getting passed for voter rights for Black men, and so we know that we have to keep going, and in multiple ways. And I love that, like, we have the young people leading this movement.
Yes, I
we
love
have
it.
social media leading
love
the
it.
movement. And so we're able to bring so much awareness. And I think bringing awareness to all of the ways that white supremacy shows up is happening now. We have an opportunity to make a real difference in the justice system, in healthcare, in the food industry, in the educational industry, because it is in every single system.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yes.
So speaking of which, in terms of making a change, how important do you think supporting grassroots organizations is, in terms of financially, you know, when they ask for donations and things like that, so they can do what they need to do, when they send out petitions for you to sign up and sign petitions for certain laws? I mean, how effective do you think that is? How important do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing how important it is. If you think about the Black Lives Matter movement, right, and how that started, and these 4 Black women who got this whole, everything that we're seeing now, is because of the way that these 4 Black women are able to organize in a grassroots fashion.
Exactly.
And from what I understand, they took this model that Ella Baker had been trying to push out during the civil rights movement, but women had to take a back seat back in the 60s. And so she said, we do not need strong leaders, we need strong communities.
Yeah, exactly.
And they did not listen, because people don't like to listen to Black women, but Black women be knowing.
That's a whole nother
That's
issue.
And
another
so
lesson.
now we have these women leading Black Lives Matter, and you don't see them. They're not making speeches.
Right.
They're not
You
standing
don't
in
see
front of podiums. Guess what they're doing? Organizing communities, moving on. Organizing communities, moving on. And look at the impact. So I think it's so important for us to support grassroots organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Okay. So do you think, I mean, and I was having this conversation with my daughter who is a millennial. Do you think that the fires, I mean, I know that looting is always bad, so we're not advocating that. But do you think that that was really a part of, hey, we're burning down your businesses. We burned down some of our businesses too. But do you think that that really, really started to get their attention? I mean, what was so different, y'all think, about this particular one?
I'll start. I don't know if you guys remember, like, leading up to the week of George Floyd's death, you had the guy who got shot because he was jogging. Then you had Karen in Central Park
Cooper.
calling the police, screaming, saying that her life. It was just like so many things that happened in like a few days.
It was.
I
Within,
think
like,
that,
a week.
and then on
Yeah.
top of that, people are not working. People are out of jobs. People have
Frustrated.
a reason to lash out. But then on the other hand, it's just like, who was starting these fires? We don't know.
Right.
Like, now we see a video of who started the fire at Wendy's in Atlanta last night.
Well, just like we saw how they were, just strategically putting up bricks in certain areas where there were no construction, sort of like sabotage and trying to make it look like we were the ones who were creating, we actually saw video where some of the white folks were just coming around. They were the ones breaking the glass. What was that? Did they say it was a cop or something? Remember
Just
early
walking
on,
and
just walking around
banging.
and just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the agitator.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that agitators are doing it, and I think that we're doing it too. But I right now, I personally cannot find it in me to police Black people for being angry.
Exactly. And I wasn't even mad at them doing it. I mean, I don't think it's right.
I'm not
but
gonna
I
do
wasn't
it,
mad
but-
at it.
right.
I really wasn't. Because
Right.
you can't keep suppressing people
Like a bully.
and you can't keep doing that. Think they're not going to fight back. I mean, come on. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Let me go to the chat line real
Okay.
quick. Diamond is on. She said being down there feels really good. You
I can
really
imagine.
feel like part of history. So if you haven't been down there and if you have an
Yes.
opportunity to go, I would encourage everyone to just get downtown. Denise said progress has been made, laws changing, companies changing policies.
Yep, they are.
We've seen that. We've seen the companies start changing policies and laws changing. Somebody said, that was Donnie, she said, speak on, Jen. And then someone said, voting is important. So, I mean, because now we're talking about after the protest, right, guys? And so we talked about economics last week. We know that is key.
Yeah.
That is key. Get your life insurance policies together. Make sure you have inheritance to leave to your children
That's it.
so that they could begin to build wealth and legacy. We talked about that last week. And so now one of the things that we're saying is voting is absolutely important. If you watch Michelle Obama and Becoming, I mean, she talked about, Barack sort of got stalemated because our people didn't get to the polls. And so we didn't have a Democratic, house or we didn't have a Democratic house. And so he didn't have any backup because our people didn't go to the poll and vote. So we got to get out there and vote because that's how we change policies.
Right.
So how important, Jen, Chardae, how important is voting? Let's talk about it.
I think that voting, I've only actually voted in one presidential election because of my age.
Yes.
We know how that turned out. We're living it right now. But that's the thing. I think that especially millennials, I've been like wrapped up in school, but I'm starting to take this time to really research like government, especially at the local level. And I think that as people that are my peers and like everyone else needs to be really educated on like the senators or the state legislators or the sheriffs or the district attorneys, the people, the judges, the people that make decisions on our level, especially like the senators and the reps in Congress, because those are the people that can create the federal laws, and they have the power to reform the justice system. So I think that it's just voting. And that's another thing at the protest. If you were there last Saturday, I think that was the biggest day. There were so many stations to register to vote.
Awesome.
And that was one thing that I was like really, really proud of.
Right, that's really key. Voting is really key. Tell them some ways that you actually go out and do your research. Like how are you researching the senators, the judges? Because I will say, and I'm getting better now, that sometimes, you know, we vote by name. Black people, we're very loyal people. We're very loyal. So we are name loyal, brand loyal. So if we see this name over and over again, we just keep voting for you, kind of based on your name sometimes. I'm just being transparent and honest. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody ever gonna run against Eleanor Holmes Norton. Who gonna vote against her? Ain't nobody gonna vote against her. Ain't nobody gonna run against Eleanor Holmes Norton. They don't even run against her. She don't even have to campaign no more. Because that's how we are as people. Marion Barry, I would have voted for him over and over again. I'm telling you right now.
Yes, I would.
I would have voted for him over and over again. We're very loyal people. But so just tell us some ways that we should be researching this. Because you said you researched it.
So recently, I was wrapped up all in the protest, but you know, Maryland, we just had to vote last week.
We did.
So for me personally, like I said, I've been like backed up with coaching. I work full time, and I just finished school. I just literally took the mail-in ballot, and researched every candidate. And something as simple as like the pros and cons of each candidate, or like, do my values align with theirs? I'm not necessarily like, I think one thing that's also great about millennials, I'm not necessarily like blue or red. I'm like right or wrong. So I think that researching the candidates and seeing what you feel is right or what aligns with your values is the most important.
Yeah.
Right, Jen.
Yeah, I agree with Chardae, and this is what I love about millennials. It's a game changer because for so long, I think that people took the black vote for granted, thinking that it's guaranteed, right? Because let's not forget that Biden had a slip up before everything popped off about if you don't vote for him, you must not be black, which means that he already understood that he didn't need to work for our vote, so he wasn't going to work for us when he got in office either.
Wow.
And I think that we have to start holding people accountable because we do have some power, and once we start holding people accountable and knowing that you don't automatically get my vote because you're a Democrat, I want to know about the issues. And so I started doing research too in Maryland. I needed to know, like, who are all of these judges and what do they stand for? And were they silent when black people were being hunted in the streets? I went to their social media. I wanted to know, are you posting about Ahmaud Arbery before I vote for you, or are you afraid and silent because you're being bought? Right. And so I'm doing things like that. I think we have to start holding people accountable because the thing about white supremacy is that you have to tackle it on a systemic level. It is not about ignorance. This is very complex and complicated and has been planned out for centuries. And so if we unpack it, we have to unpack it through systems. And so that means that we need lawmakers to be getting rid of and dismantling racist policies and laws.
Amen.
Starts at the top.
Amen.
Yep.
That's so true. That's so key.
Right.
Oh, these are some smart women. You see these smart women that we have on our show today. They are brilliant, brilliant. All right, so let's get into the topic of defunding the police. What does that mean, Jen? We defunding the police.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't it sound so bad?
It does.
But they've been defunding education for years.
Thank you.
My gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you know, and this is complicated because people kind of look at it like you have good police and bad police, and I'm like, no, this is not about good and bad people. This is about systems. So if we think about the system of policing and what it was created to do, which was to catch slaves, then how much has it really changed? And when you create a system, systems work. You don't have to have bad people in the system for it to work. Systems, that's what they do. And so in order to change the systems, it's not about like getting rid of bad police. No, the system is bad itself. So we have to reframe the entire system. So if it's defunding it to reframe it, yes, because they need to stop being able to pay out all of these lawsuits to people that they are killing, black people and brown people that they are killing. But it's also about like, why is it so militarized? Why do we police different in white neighborhoods than we do in black neighborhoods? And then like, what is community policing really about? How have we made right with the way that police historically have antagonized and brutalized black communities? And so, like, it's passed down. It's in our bones. It's in our DNA.
It's in their DNA.
Right. We know because they have terrorized our communities historically, and that stuff has been taught to us.
Yes.
I remember being a little girl, and we would ride to Georgia for our family reunions, and I remember I'm with my great-grandparents. Nobody is doing anything illegal, but we have to have like scanners in the car. We all riding at the same time and we're leaving together. And when I was a little girl, I didn't know what were all of these precautions for. But now I realize it was for the racism that we were going to face on the road, being black people driving to the South, because police historically have terrorized black people.
Wow.
And that's what my grandparents were teaching me. I was a little girl. I didn't even know.
Right. Oh, that's so important. That's so key.
Yeah.
To the chat line real quick, I also, so Reverend Sinclair, I gave her a shout out. She said she actually researched too. I think we all got to research.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I got to get better at this. You know, I need to start really researching. I mean, this is why I hang around millennials, because they keep me on my toes. My daughter, they just keep us on our toes. Millennials are going to change the world, Denise said. I agree. Hey, I'm riding their coattail.
Listen.
I'm riding their coattail.
Supporting you all the way.
I mean, people sometimes don't like the millennials in the workforce, because they got some different opinions, and we want the status quo. You know what I mean? We like, look at here, little millennial. I need you to be to work on time. You know, but
They're like, time, what does that
right,
really
time.
mean? What's the debate about time?
About passion.
Right.
You know, all this stuff. So, you know, but I actually go to them a lot, and I'm just, you know, because they have so many innovative ideas. So, so that's a wonderful thing. Michelle said, you remember that, Jenny? She said that you actually remember that. I think the story that you told. Oh, yes. My sister actually wrote on here, we just literally experienced that same thing when we on our way to Lake Anna. We was on our family vacation at the end of last year, and the police actually followed us all the way to the lake. I mean, and then they sort of made a U-turn, and then they followed, and we were driving in a group of 4, and it was just a white police officer, and they just followed us all the way. And it was a scary thing, and everybody, we was sitting up straight, and we was we were driving like this, like don't turn your head left, right. I mean, we were trying to do everything correct, and you could just tell they came car to car, and they were just checking our tag numbers and everything. So literally, this just happened to us a couple of months ago.
And you know, that doesn't happen to white people. Like I talk to my white coworkers, they never get pulled over, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I've learned that. Yeah.
It's definitely.
So
injustice.
So Chardae, I know that you. I mean, so being at the University of Maryland, I know that's a predominantly white school.
Yeah.
Have you experienced anything there? I mean, we're gonna get back to this, but I just want to know like what your experience is, even at a predominantly white school.
Maryland is actually a pretty liberal school, but you have those that are like just. You definitely experience racism. I don't know if you guys saw when like a Howard student like got stabbed at a bus stop or something like that. So I think for me, and I think for school, for work, for cheer, I've always been in that setting. Sometimes the only black girl at work, a lot the only black girl, and I think that for me, what gets me is like the microaggressions, like the comments that they don't think is racist, or because they have a black friend, or like. They just don't get it. Like they'll make a comment about hair or something that they just can't relate to, or like, why is she so upset? Like the demeanor of a black woman, but the same thing could happen to like one of my classmates, and one of my maybe white classmates could literally have the same energy, but no one thinks she's like angry. Like her anger is like justified. So I've always been like hesitant to speak up in those settings, but like in the last week. I felt like I can't do that anymore. I can't do that, and I feel like uncomfortable conversations need to be had. And right now, like the responsibility is on our white peers. Like she said, like, they have to fix it.
You're right. And then speaking of co-workers and experiences on the job, and mine is just the opposite. I mean, I've had that issue too, but this particular incident. So there was this woman who brought her teenage daughter into work. So I had, we, I guess, met each other in the kitchen area or whatever. So I spoke to her and just, nice pleasantries. And then I going back to my desk. And so my coworker walked over to me and was like, can't remember her daughter's name, but let's just say whatever. But she said, my daughter told me that you was just so nice to her. And I was like, yeah. Now, we got, it's where I work is predominantly white. And in my department, it's maybe about 4 or 5, African Americans. But I'm thinking, had she encountered somebody else in the kitchen, you wouldn't have approached them and said, oh, you know, another white woman. You wouldn't have said, oh, my daughter said you were so nice. So what does that mean? She expected me to be angry? She expected me to be mean to her? What did that mean? So it's little stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
you know.
Yeah. It's
And I'm
those
like,
little
what was
things
I supposed
sometimes,
to be
those
to
little
her?
subtleties.
Exactly, it's
Those
just little
little
subtle things. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Right.
Yeah.
I was on a work call actually right after George Floyd's death, like the Wednesday after, and my boss is from Minnesota, and I'm the only black person in my work group, and I'm probably the only like millennial. I am the only millennial, and I got on the call, and you know, like before you start a Zoom, everybody's on Zoom, but we don't show our face for work. So before we started, she was talking about like, oh, like, what did Target do? Like, that was my favorite Target, and I was just like, I was silent, but I was just like, she's like so upset about a Target and not this
Not about black
video.
bodies.
It was the day after, so I'm like, it was before there was a lot of looting in like every state. It was when it was only there, and like just me being on the call, I was just like, I literally like cried in my house because I was like, they are literally holding a conversation right now. Like, I think it's the things like that, but they don't. It sucks because they really don't think it's offensive.
Right.
Well,
right.
yeah.
Help us out here because
and so you know, and so this is what I do, and I'm fortunate at my job where I'm saying the night before, I'm like writing a letter. So here I am pouring out my soul, like you saying you don't speak up because we have to wear this mask. We wear the mask, that poem, right? I always think about it, and like you say, I'm not wearing this mask anymore because one, we don't even get to show up in our authentic selves because we have to protect ourselves. And so like I would have went and protect them because we've been trained to do that. And so I would have went into your meeting so full of armor and no emotions to protect myself from that. The work that I do at my job, fortunately, is that is my job. And so I am like the night before writing a letter. I hope this finds you outraged. I got that from one of my business partners. That's how my letter starts, right? Like, let's talk about what happened. And I want you to know that black people are traumatized right now. So know that the black people in your organization, they are showing up to meetings. They are doing their work. They are still killing it. And they are working through their own trauma right now. And you should be aware of that and know it. Because we really aren't okay. This is not okay.
This is not okay. So what are we so as a business owner, what should they be telling their employees during this time? Because some people have been kind of silent.
Yeah.
So do you think that as an employee you should be addressing this?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Your silence, to me and to most people, we've agreed that your silence means that you're on the side of oppression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me.
And silence equals violence against black and
That's
brown
it.
people,
Yeah.
currently and historically. And so this is the thing. There is no middle ground, right? You are either a racist or you are anti-racist. You
with
can't
us or
stand in the
against
middle.
us.
You got to pick a side. And so people should acknowledge it. Businesses should acknowledge it. Businesses need to hold space for their community because this is not just a black people's problem. Right? Who created whiteness and white supremacy? This is everyone's problem. And then businesses should be making space for their black people.
Right.
So if you are a majority white business, there needs to be some affinity spaces so that black people can process this together as black people, because we need to process it differently in our group than we're going to process it in a mixed race, in a mixed race group.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone on the chat line, they've been trying to get this in here, and I don't know if we can. We don't have a lot of time to go over the Willie Lynch letter. You all familiar with the Willie Lynch letter? And they want to know, can the letter actually be undone? And I'll ask the second question too. So we talked about the Willie Lynch letter, and someone is saying, what's easier to deal with? Jackie is saying, what's easier to deal with, direct racism or passive racism? At my old job, the passive racism used to anger her. She was saying, I'd rather you wear your your
open
face.
with your,
I'd rather you just be open with it. That way I know where you're coming from. And we always say, when you know where a person coming from, now I can deal with you. I can deal with you.
It's in the subtle stuff. Even like you said, being silent. So just with some coworkers of mine, I'm like, I had one person reach out to me from my job. One. Now I can tell management, they actually did put in a request to have a meeting, hold a meeting, so we can express ourselves, the black community within the organization.
And that's what Jen was saying.
Yeah,
that
they did.
That
They
organizations,
did.
and if you're with these organizations, should the people be reaching out to upper management saying, hey, let's have this conversation, have this space for me?
Yes.
So if they're not doing it, should we be going upward saying, hey, can we still, can we have a conversation?
Right.
And should you bring someone in like yourself, Jen, or like someone who can actually navigate the conversation, because this can actually blow up. So it can go the other way too.
Definitely.
So I've seen businesses say, like, try to use like, oh, this isn't the place for politics, but this is not political. This is
not
right
politics.
and wrong.
This is human.
This is human life that we're talking about. So I've seen companies not say anything because they said that that's just not the place. But it's like,
but you have people working
right.
there.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think it's easier to deal with direct racism because it's like those people who will say like all lives matter and then say I'm not racist. It's just like
Yeah.
all lives matter. On your birthday, all birthdays matter.
Yeah.
We
Doing
celebrate
the breast cancer walk. Doing the breast cancer walk.
Good.
No one is at the breast cancer walk saying, "What about pancreatic cancer?"
matters.
Right.
Of course, all cancers matter, but in October we're recognizing breast cancer.
Exactly.
Right now, the world doesn't know that Black Lives Matter, so we need to say that.
So you don't have a problem with all lives matter or blue lives matter. That means that what you have a problem with is the word black.
Because it's about anti-blackness.
Right. I don't think they think that's offensive at all.
No.
Yeah.
When I think they just like inclusion,
Yeah.
all lives matter.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of the all lives matter.
Yeah.
So they don't
That
think,
actually happened
they
in
don't
my
think
job,
that's
too.
offensive
all
at
lives
all.
matter.
Somebody
They don't think that's
posted
offensive at
because
all.
actually the organization I work for, I won't say the name, but they're democratic in nature and they do fight for injustice and things like that. You know, in terms of right on the forefront, but. Not sure about internally, but anyway, so they had a Black Lives Matter. You know, some people in office had Black Lives Matter. This was when Trayvon Martin, the whole thing, and so this white woman put an All Lives Matter thing on her desk, and she got reported for some other things, but she got reported to HR, and they actually suspended her.
I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah.
So guys, what's really next? I mean, what's next? What's next? We got the protest. So, I mean, we talked on some of it. We got to research. We got to vote. We got to know who we're voting for. We got to understand legislatures. So
And also support the grassroots organizations.
Support the grassroots organizations. And supporting the grassroots organization, and I'm just going to throw this out here because we advertise black businesses here. We want you to support black businesses. But black businesses...
Oh, yeah, that's another...
Black businesses.
Right.
We want you to support us too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it has to be reciprocal in a way. So, like, we want to support your business, but guess what? This is not a black or white thing either. This is also, you know, we want good customer service.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let the cat out the bag.
Well, you know,
great customer service.
I hear y'all, but this is the thing.
Okay.
The white businesses don't give us good customer service
Not all
either.
the
We
time,
just
and we
feel
still
like
go
we
back.
don't have
But
a
we just
choice,
stop-
and
we
we
stop
feel like we
going.
got to deal with it. Like even things like that, we have to realize that so much stuff has been based on anti-blackness that we think that we hold black people to a higher expectation than we hold everyone else to.
Yeah.
The white businesses, Comcast has been the worst customer service I have ever experienced in my life, and there's a few places, but these are white businesses, and we don't hold them accountable.
Well, they've monopolized the
Yeah, they
industry
just
too,
not-
by the way.
Yeah.
So you
We
almost
right,
have
Verizon is
you
bad,
have.
sometimes
Yeah.
Xfinity
Right.
is bad.
Yeah. So
it's
bad
like we
customer
don't have
services is bad customer
abs-
service.
absolutely.
And then I
Absolutely.
switch back and forth. Whoever
Yeah.
did that, I mean, like, you're not good to me, I'm gonna switch.
Right.
You're not good to me, I'm gonna switch back. I don't know.
Right,
I
and
don't
then
know
I
what we
saw a
do.
comment like, oh, we need to just have our own, like, we don't need to have, like, nail salons and hair salons. We need to have, like, pharmacies and grocery stores and things like that. But I'm just like you said, we are at a disadvantage the day we come out of the womb. Like, if it was, the system is set up so that we don't have these grocery stores. And even the black-owned grocery stores that we do have, they're not on a chain in every state.
That's
because
true.
it is literally like a top-down thing.
Right.
And like you say, what's after the protest, I think I believe in disruption and inconvenience. I've been calling police stations nonstop. I mean, you can't even reach them because everyone's calling, sending emails, flooding their inbox.
That's right.
They can't get any emails because you're flooding their inbox.
Look at our millennials.
So
Look at our millennials.
inconveniencing them, and then back to what you said about
That's right.
defunding the police, just making our communities full of better people.
Right.
More money for homeless shelters, more money for mental
There
health.
you go.
Yes.
More money to go into domestic violence and crisis
That's it.
prevention. If
Yeah.
you make our people better, they won't go to prison.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
It's
Thank you.
It's like a
Yep,
Right,
and I think figuring out ways to keep our money in our community is so important.
It is.
Like now, whatever big purchases I'm making, I want to give that money to Black people,
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
I can, I need to know where you stand on Black Lives Matter. So I remember. I mean, like literally the weekend after this happened with George Floyd, they sent someone to my community to sell cameras So it's this company, and they're coming around, and these white boys are knocking on the doors to sell cameras to people. And I'm like, first of all, we are mourning. Our whole country is mourning. But how dare you come into my neighborhood right now with these white boys coming into black neighborhoods wanting to take my money, and you don't have on Black Lives Matter or something. So when you knock on my door, the first thing I'm asking you is, where does your company stand on black people being lynched right now?
Oh, that's key.
And he starts stuttering, and I'm like, you need to go back. I spoke for my whole neighborhood. And look, they won't come back to my door. I told my neighbor, I said, I spoke for the whole neighborhood. Black people won't be buying anything until we know your stand.
There you go.
That's so good. I love these ladies. Hey, we taking the stand. Don't ring my doorbell no more. You know who you are. I keep ringing my doorbell. I keep looking at you right in the ring doorbell too. I see. Stop ringing my doorbell. You know, I love what people are saying even on the chat. Like, we need to get together. Erica says we need to get together, put a party together, and create a black agenda.
Yes.
I'm with that.
Are we doing that? Who's doing that? Let's get together and create this black agenda. Someone else said that we need to create another Black Wall Street. Remember the Black Wall Street?
The one they burned down.
The one that burned down in Tulsa.
Yep.
You know, where he having a rally there.
Yeah.
Well, I think they said he was changing it.
He moved the date, but it's still Tulsa.
Yeah. But it's still Tulsa. That's, it's still Tulsa. Yeah. So, I mean, yes, I agree. We need to get back to having a Black Wall Street. Yeah. And so, I mean, how do we do that, guys?
I think it has gone so far that the oppressor is going to have to put us on the same level as them. White people have to work right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I see people actually getting it, like the light bulb is going off. I've seen on social media. I'm like, oh, okay, you're finally getting it. Not all, but this is definitely an eye-opener for.
I would say education has to be the foundation of it too. So like, how are we decolonizing education? Because the education system is no different from the police department. It's just a different kind of violence that they invoking upon black children. Somebody posted yesterday, I saw this post yesterday, and they said white women are to black children what white police officers are to black men. It's just a different kind of violence.
Who Mr. Nitri is right
and
now.
And I just want to be clear. I just need to be clear that all education institutions except HBCUs are white institutions. So even if it's all DCPS, you can have a whole black school. It is a white institution built on white morals and foundations created for white people to be successful, not for black people. And so we got to disrupt that too.
Yeah, I know we don't have enough time, but that's a big one. I always talk about how like discriminatory the SAT is, how you can give a kid in the slums with 4-year-old textbooks, no money for SAT prep, the same exact exam that you're giving a rich kid that can get thousands of dollars of tutoring. I don't understand how you can be tested.
It wasn't created.
It wasn't created for us, but we are still tested the same.
Over 80% of the teachers in the country are white women. So the odds of a black child, a brown child having a teacher who looks like them is slim to none. But research shows that having one black teacher increases your rates of graduating even. But when we start thinking about like what kids are learning, how they are learning, how kids are already being prepared for prison in school, suspension. I mean, Amy Cooper calling the police on Mr. Cooper in Central Park reminds me so much of education, the way that these black boys get thrown out of the classroom. It's Amy Cooper. Amy Cooper is all in most classrooms in our country.
Man, that thing hurt my heart. It really did. It really did.
So,
I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
guys,
education has to be the foundation.
I hate this.
This is true.
This is a this is like a 2-hour conversation that we could absolutely have, but the time is almost.
Can I just say that one of the biggest things, if you're thinking about educating your kids, like kids need to know our history did not start with slavery. Kids need to be reading books by black authors. Kids need to understand that white people did not take slaves from Africa. They stole human beings. They stole kings and queens and doctors and lawyers and teachers and mothers and fathers and families. They stole human beings and brought them to this country and forced them into labor by violence, and we are still feeling the remnants of it today. And our kids need to know who they come from. They come from kings and queens. And so, like, that is a different message than they stole slaves. They still slaves.
Right.
They stole humans.
Slaves. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, your dad said that he's super proud of you. Look, I gotta say that. Look, tell you, I'm super proud of Jen. So I'm so, oh my god, I just cannot believe this conversation is so good. I got nothing. I haven't even touched. I mean, it was so interesting that most 911 calls are mental health services, health services, EMT, and fire services. If we start giving that money to those services and maybe having those healthcare workers go out when it's a mental case because the police can't do anything with them. They're just throwing out people in jail. There's so much to talk about, guys, but we are really out of time. Hang on with us for 1 second. We're going to come right back with you with our victory viewpoints. We're going to have our family and friends sponsor. But if you want to be our family and friends sponsor, we got to keep this conversation going, guys. So give us 2 minutes. We're going to put our family and friends sponsors up. This conversation is so good. I just can't believe it.
This is some
Where did the time go? Where did the time go?
Deep stuff.
All right.
We're back.
We'll be right back.
Hey, Chuck! Talk to me, Pastor Mitchell. I don't know about you, but I've had all kinds of friends in my life. I think I've been right down that road with you. Yeah, I had some so-called friends. Yes. When trouble came, they went the other way. Tell me about it. But one thing I'm glad about, that ain't a friend like the lonely Jesus. No. Well, ain't nobody. Come on. You be like Jesus. Ain't nobody. You be like the Lord. Ain't nobody. You be like Jesus. He's my friend.
Welcome back, guys. Jen has a final thought because I'm saying we couldn't get it all in, so we're going to squeeze it in. And Sean will give us our victory viewpoint. And I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about next week. So come back next week, guys.
Thank you. My final thought is really encouraging Black people to take care of themselves. Like, you got to take care of yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, because we are experiencing trauma, and we have been for a long time. And I think we are all starting to take that mask off, and it's traumatic. So, like, self-care is a must because this will be a marathon and not a race. Ms. Chardae said, like, this is just the beginning. So I would encourage us to do that. I'm talking about radical self-care. Audre Lorde talks about self-care being resistance. And I will also tell you guys to check out thewellscollective.com. We are 6 Black women, and we center the well-being and disrupt justice, but we disrupt racism and oppression, and we center the well-being of Black women. So follow us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. So now our victory viewpoints. God is love, and we are required to walk in love. If our hearts, words, and actions don't reflect such, then we are guilty of sin. The injustice we see today is not new. It's been ingrained in men from the beginning of time. It's rooted in sin nature. Such things as insecurities, fear, hate, jealousy. All these things are not of God. So how do we overcome these things? It starts in the home, it starts in the heart. Romans 12:18 says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men.
All right, amen. Thank you so much. I'm so excited again. My cousin Chardae is here. Jenifer is here. We switched our subjects around because we had to address the current crisis, and so we had to switch our subjects around, and they were just willing to come on to speak about it. Next week, join us next week for our show after the protest. Still, Black Fathers Matter. So we're going to have some Black fathers on here, and we want to uplift them. We want to encourage them. And we want you all to tune in next week when we have some Black fathers on our panel next week. So just talk to them. Let's keep them encouraged, guys. And so we'll see you next week. We love you. Most importantly, God loves you. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
And be safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Come on and join us. We're gonna have a good time. Listen up, check us out. Use the hotline now to chime. Come on and join us. There's lots of surprise for you. Fun and family, make great fellowship too.
Crystal and Sean have exciting words. I'm sure there's something that you've never heard. Sunday at 6, it's an excellent mix. We got spiritual flair, special guests will be there.
Come on and join us. Chattitudes, Chattitudes,
What's your attitude?
Chattitudes.